So welcome to our panel. I'm going to give an opportunity for our panelists to introduce themselves before we get into the meat of the questions. So we can start with Dr. Strayhorn.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Terrell Strayhorn, Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs at Lemoyne-Owen College, where I also serve as Professor of Urban Education, and I spoke this morning. Amen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Utterback from the North Fork Rancheria of Mono Indians, and I'm a sociology major, minoring in American Indian Studies. I'm also working for the Men of Color Initiative and SupportNet, so doing special projects there, and also an American Indian ambassador for the American Indian Studies program.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Buenas tardes, Naijang. Hello. all three languages that I know, that's it. So I'm Jerry Gomez. This is my last semester in the Student Affairs and College Counseling Master's Program. I did my bachelor's in Mass Communications and Journalism. And I'm just like Anthony, I'm part of the Male Initiative. I was also one of the founding fathers for Stand Together as One, our Male Alliance club on campus.
Hi everyone, can you guys hear me? My name is Dua. I'm a home American student here. I'm currently in my master's in the college counseling with the option of student affair. I'm currently interning with SupportNet at the Learning Center. And yeah, that's me.
One more time for our panelists. All right, we're going to get right to it. What are some specific ways? And so I'm going to ask a series of questions, and I'm going to ask as many questions as I can in a 30-minute period, and then we're going to do some Q&A for the panelists as well. So starting off, what are some specific ways that you plan to leave a legacy behind for the next generation of young men? And anyone can chime in. Yeah, I know. I led with some fire there. I know.
Yeah, so for me, it would be just showing all the brothers on campus that you know, we gotta stay strong, and if I could do it, they can do it, you know, type of thing. One thing that I could do specifically would be to stay true to myself, holding on to my medicine, and keeping an open mind, just being a good human being. We all have to be role models for each other, you know. We're in this thing together, so yeah, that would be the best thing we could do for each other would to be good role models.
I'll go next. In terms of legacy, I feel like when you're asking for like the future, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think in my story with Stand Together as One, the legacy was already left. And this event was literally like the cherry on top, because for a long time when Stand Together as One was brought to us and it got brought to campus, we started off with a small group of men who wanted who needed a mentorship, who needed a leader to guide them in the right path. And I think through our conversations, our workshops, our pro talks as we call them, and all the events that we hosted, I feel like just by that, I think we left an example for other males to lead on. They already have something to work with, and I think the legacy I want to leave behind is the passion and energy to continue forward, and that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to seek guidance from other men. Yeah.
For me, leaving the legacy as a student going to, you know, becoming a professional, I felt that it's really important to kind of paving the path with, you know, guidance with all the mentors who's been showing me the path, and then my route or my path I'm going into, you know, using those students or having those students who kind of struggle, especially students of color, men of color especially, and minorities who does not have the equity like many other people does, and providing that resources to those, and leaving that legacy so that way they can follow along, and taking them along as I'm paving this path with the mentors who's been guiding me along that way.
So whenever I hear questions like this, I think a lot about words, and the word that stood out to me in your question is legacy. So if legacy, and many of us know, is to leave something behind, usually through like a will, money, property, I think about leaving a legacy for other people, young men. So to do it, specific ways I'll do it is by never hesitating to make investments in young people and other young men, using my voice to not only fight for my own causes and my own interests, but to fight for the causes of my brothers and sisters, not just those who are African American, but those across a whole spiral or swirl of identities, because I do believe in equality and social justice for everyone. So using my voice and my skills to fight for justice for all. I think also the way in which I can leave property or resources behind for the next generation is to, one, make sure that I get some of those things myself, property and resources, and that I take good care of those things that are in my care, so that if I, it's important to me to be a professor. I realize that as a black male professor, I am one of about 3% in the country. But as a result of me being a professor, I know that I have trained over a dozen African-American men who have PhDs, who are now professors in the academy. And they're not all African-American, but I mean African-American, Native American, Latino, LGBTQIA, all PhDs, now professors in the academy as the result of the investments I make. So I think this is what we can all do, is open doors, always reach back and bring forward to the next generation.
Thank you. Some awesome responses there. All right, moving on to the next question. What is at the roots of your purpose to be successful? Is anyone within your immediate circle of friends, educators, etc., aware of what roots your purpose?
I'll start us off. At the root of my purpose, which is, in my mind, about change and equality, and that sounds really big, but on a day-to-day basis, I'm motivated to help people, and to help people who are hurting and help people who need help. And so a lot of the things that I do from the time I wake up until the time I go to sleep, I realize I'm doing because I'm able to help people. On my campus, I'm able to help students, faculty, and staff. I'm able to help my institution. I'm able to help my president. In the city of Memphis, I'm able to help people. So I think that at the root of everything, even speaking, I see myself helping people. As Shamil was saying in his talk, I see myself not only educating people, but naming some of the hurt that people have endured, affirming some of the experiences that people have had, as well as providing hope and optimism out of that. The second part of your question is, are there people in my immediate circle? Absolutely. In fact, I'm joined by one today, Mr. Clarence McFerrin, who's my good friend over there. Yeah, you can clap for Clarence. I'm blessed to have him in my life. He makes my life better. And whether it is grabbing my bag because I've got too many things in my hand, or taking care of my belongings while I'm on a stage, or he's a theater teacher, and if it means leaving his school and hanging out with me, like the other night, I had made a promise to some students on my campus that I would go to their bowling night, and it was really, really late, and I was really, really tired, but, and most people would have said to me, oh, just go home and go to bed, but he looked at me and said, but you made a promise to them, and I know that that's gonna break your heart to let them down, so we've gotta go to bowling. And to have people like that who will understand the root, that's in your question, the root of your purpose is really, really valuable.
Yeah, give it up, yeah.
This is a tough question, Troy, man. I don't know how you came up with these. But
I didn't, but okay.
you know, I think I have a different word for purpose. And especially when I got into this field of wanting to become a counselor or work in higher ed, I used the word purpose and exchanged it with the word vocation, my calling. And when I started working in higher ed with the Education Opportunity Program, I felt like my purpose was to push people, because I feel like especially with the students that I worked for in the past, you know, I've noticed that there's like a fear. They don't like they want to work on something, or they want to do something they want to work on their purpose, but it's like this fear that is holding them back. And I realized that like anytime I walk into a room, or whenever I have a conversation with someone, I have this energy inside of me. And so I feel like my purpose is to push people, wake them up, and tell them, you can do it. Vamos! Right? Especially with my boys over there still. I don't know, like it's something that it might not even be words, it's just the energy. It's kind of like the right word would be like leading, right? So, and then who around me knows that? So I know, especially like my mentors know that's what I want to do. My family knows that, and the guys that I work with. Like we have a really good president back there. He's gonna be our next president for the next years, and I always tell him that he has it in him. He always says, I want to be a Jerry Gomez. I wanna do what you do, but I always tell him, like, you're gonna do it the Arturo way. You're gonna do it like the Mike way. You're gonna do it like your own way. You have to be unique. So it's like waking them up and telling them, vamos, you can do it.
Thank you. I think that importance of not only motivation, but individualism is very, very important. So thank you for that.
And okay. So I come from a refugee family, and especially that's gonna be like one of my purpose. The sacrifices that my parents have to kind of left their country behind, and that was very tough. And that's one of the purpose that when I started to educate myself and wanted to learn more. So the first purpose was to be successful of myself. And as I get more towards getting deeper into this route of being an educator or being a professional, I started to look into serving, where Dr. Strayhorn mentioned about, you know, serving people, helping, and that's kind of like the second motivator or second purpose of that, what I'm pushing for. So first is myself. In order for me to be successful, going back to the legacy again, establishing some, you know, property, establishing something like a goal for myself first, and then where I can pursue and helping other people. So that's kind of where my root comes from.
Thank you so much.
So one defining characteristic of my enculturation would be community, and community is definitely within the roots of my purpose. One thing that was emphasized to me my senior year of high school was that we pursue a higher education and we attend these universities not only for ourselves, but so we could bring back our knowledge to our communities. And so my community consists of my family, my school, my colleagues, my friends, the earth as well. Gotta respect the earth. And yeah, those are definitely, my family and my community are at the roots of my purpose. And I have no trouble saying it. Like if it's for the culture or if it's for my community, I'm gonna be there. I'll show up. I'll participate. That's how it's supposed to be. So I think that when it comes to our roots and our purpose, we should never forget those who are there for us and those who are within our immediate circle. And for me, that's definitely my mom, my sister, and my girlfriend. In the Native American community, we have a different definition for the term medicine. Medicine is something or someone who brings you happiness, enlightenment, wellness. And for me, my mother and my sister and my girlfriend, they're three strong women, and they keep me grounded. So they're amazing women, and they're definitely part of the roots of my purpose as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I think we'll do one more, and then I think we should open it up to the audience if they have any questions. Can you recall a point where your success goals and the urge to live up to a mythical perception of the man conflicted with each other?
Before I switched over to sociology, I was a construction management major. Back in the day, I used to do small construction stuff, work with concrete, and I knew that engineers make pretty good money, and I'm from a certain type of community and family. Several years from now, I'm not going to be the individual who inherits money from somebody else. So money was definitely on my mind when I decided to go into the construction/engineering field, because I felt that as a man, I had to take care of my family, and I had to bring home that bacon and whatnot. But when I started taking the engineering classes, like, yeah, I was passing the classes, but I didn't like it. I didn't like that field because a lot of the companies we were working with were for-profit companies, and I felt that my purpose wasn't just about money. It was about people, and it was about my community. So I finally, first I was at this fork in the road where I either be this engineer and I pursue this money and I don't be happy, or I be a human being and I do what I want to do for me and my people. And so that point in my life, it's on my mind a lot still, because I kind of think like, man, like in my future, I may not be making engineer or doctor money, so does that make me less of a man? But I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not. Like, that money has nothing to do with being a man. It's like Malcolm X said, like, we don't judge people by the way they look, their religion, their race. We judge people by their character as a human being. And so I'm blessed to have a lot of people who were in my corner and within my circle to guide me on my right path to where I'm at now. I'm a sociology major, and I really love it. So yeah, definitely that whole money concept that got to me, where it kind of tests masculinity. At the same time, that money tests femininity too. You can't leave that part out too. Like, that money affects everybody. So yeah, try to sum it up here. Money doesn't determine who we are. And as a young man, I'm glad that I learned that money doesn't define who I am as a human being. That's up to me.
Thank you. That was powerful. I had a very similar experience with counseling. Counseling is what I love to do. I love the field that I work in now. But if I would have continued to chase the dollar, I probably would have ended up in a field that I didn't feel so passionately about. So I appreciate you sharing that.
So that's funny that you talked about money, because that's kind of like something I want to share. So like my goal like in life was to finish school, go into like higher ed and go to college, finish, and then after start a family. And so far it's been lined up like that. But I could tell you, like, maybe like 2 months ago, every time we have like a family gathering, like, I see all my cousins and they're all married. They all like, so just to go a little bit back, but all my cousins, none of my cousins went to college, they all decided to stay like in Tulare, Hanford, and they all work in dairies. And they all got married like at the age of 18, 19, started having kids, and they bought their like in Mexican culture, you buy like your Silverado, your Ford, your F-150, a big truck, right? And like that's something I've always wanted, right? To get married, work, make money, and start a family. But unfortunately, like for me, it's coming a little later. So like, I'm not gonna lie. Like halfway through my path, and even like a couple months ago, I started asking myself, "Am I really a man? Am I really a man for not having those things? For not having the money to buy a house? For not having the money to, buy one of those like manly-looking trucks? Or am I not a man for not having a wife yet? For not having any kids? For not being a father?" But then I asked myself, and I told myself this, like, I like what you said, Mr. Shamil. You gotta the voice inside your head is the most powerful thing. You either use it for positive or negative, right? But my positive voice told me, you know what, Jerry? Once you finish your master's and you land your career job, you're gonna make more, like 3 times more than what your cousins are making at a dairy. Yeah, they may have a house now. Yes, they may be raising their kids now. But I might do it in a way where like I don't have to struggle as much. So when I made peace with that thought, like I felt like those gender roles didn't really I felt more like a man when I really came to that conclusion. I'm gonna finish school and I'm gonna be a man still, no matter what.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you.
So I guess financial stability is something that we have in common then. Well, I'm married, and I have 2 boys, 2 very handsome boys. So actually, I'm living this point right now because I'm currently not working, just pursuing school right now, and that's one of the hardest point. It's kind of like you're not, as a man, you're being told to provide for your family. You're supposed to be the one who's bringing like the bread home. You're supposed to be the one who's taking care of everything, but yet I'm not at this moment, and it's hard. It's hard, and I'm just very glad that I have a very strong, passionate wife who's backing up me and who's supporting me through this route that we both chose to do together. So yeah, that's one of the biggest conflict that I'm living as of this moment right now.
Thank you.
So the conflict that I think can emerge, your question was, has there ever been a time where trying to live up to this idea of the man that I came in conflict with who I was? And so yes is the answer. And many times when I'm giving public lectures and talks, I jokingly I refer to myself as the fun size. That is the adult Terrell making fun of the body that is, to most people, smaller than it should be, shorter than it should be, not as developed as it should be. But when I was in grade school, this was actually the source of a lot of bullying for me. It made first grade, which I was academically strong, but athletically not even present, very uncomfortable. Second grade, third grade. It's why I hid away in fourth grade in Mr. McCarthy's room while people went out to play football because they would never select me anyway. But as I got older, I realized that the same things that made me like the class clown or the teacher's pet in school were glorified in adult life. People love the fact that I'm intellectual. They like the fact that I have books. As I got older, and then the things that were like my sites of shame, my body, could become, I could have power back if I turned that source and that pain into a joke during a public lecture. So I think that there's been times where I've had those contradictions and I've learned how to negotiate them, not always by myself, sometimes with input from people who have been there as well, who were mentors, not maybe people who I called mentors, but people who've dealt with bullying and helped me figure out how to not only deal with bullying, but how to heal from that bullying as an adult. So that's been really important. And the danger of all the things we're talking about is these masculine messages, like how tall you're supposed to be, how big you're supposed to be, how muscular you're supposed to be, if you're supposed to be the breadwinner, are so problematic because life is strange. And I know at my church back in Ohio, there was a man there who lost his job, and he was dependent on his wife to take care of the family and pay the bills until he could find a job. He had worked for the postal service for a long period of time, got laid off. And part of his internal anguish was because of these messages. He was in his 50s, maybe 60s, and still thinking that the man had to be the one to pay the bills, and ended up, unfortunately, taking his life. I think partly because he just couldn't reconcile these tensions. So these conversations at conferences like this are critically important. And then I think the thing I tell myself, which was embedded in all of your comments, is, I started as a biology major, then I became a pre-law major because I was always going after these highly prestigious occupations. When I settled down from all that noise and realized what I wanted to do, I liked music, I liked people. Religious studies taught me how to think about people as a history of people. I ultimately became an educator. And most people don't think about education as a place where you can make money. I'm not saying you're going to be a millionaire or a billionaire. But what I will say unapologetically is that people pay for authenticity. People pay for realness. And the moment you get in your lane and you get comfortable with who you are, I think that all the money in the world awaits everybody on this panel and everybody in this room. The moment you become who you are, because people, where's my buddy Deontay, who said he's a comedian, right? People will pay for your comedy because it's you, because it's your own unique style. I believe that. I remember being like 24, coming out of college. There was this car I wanted. My dad sold cars. All I remember, DJ Troy, is that I needed $14,000 to get the truck I wanted. And I thought, how can you get $14,000 in one day legally? And when I was 24, I could not figure it out. So much so, I never got the truck. But here I am now on this side of my why. And the way I think about the world is, if I wanted that truck nowadays, I only need a couple of keynotes. And I could go and put the money down on that truck. Not because I'm a drug dealer, not because I'm a football player, although I got great respect for Shamil, but because I'm me. And the moment you become you, people will pay to hear from you. So be yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Strayhorn. We'll make sure next mentoring conference to save a segment for Deontay to do stand-up, so I appreciate that. Give it up for Deontay. All right, does the audience have any questions? Yes, right over here. We have the mic runner.
Hello. My question is, there's always adversity in life, and given the political hostility and this maleness, this definition of maleness, like the pushback from like the Gillette commercial that happened a couple of weeks ago. In one of the breakout sessions from today, we talked about becoming a warrior, and the difference: a soldier follows direction and a warrior takes action. So my question is two parts. How do you deal with adversity or prejudice when it strikes? And what do you believe that we could take away from today's session in order to be good warriors, or good warriors on behalf of men and men of color in particular?
Well, for the first part of the question, can y'all hear me? A little bit? Okay. Forgot what I was gonna say now, bro. In the past, as a young man, as young people, we have a lot of energy, big spirits. So, kind of like what I saw with happening to that Native elder Nathan Phillips with the young man essentially disrespecting him. If that was my grandfather, or if my mother was put into that situation, I'd be heated, because that type of disrespect shouldn't be tolerated. But as a warrior, we can't let our emotions get the best of us where we would act violently or foolishly. Instead, we should educate people on how to interact with each other, because for example, with Nathan Phillips, like, the Native culture everybody doesn't know about the Native culture. So when that young man was standing in front of him, and maybe that whole group of people didn't realize that that's major disrespect within that community. So I think the best thing we can do, instead of acting violently or lashing out on people, it would be to educate them, because I think that's what they need more than anything. Can you say the second part of the question again? Okay. Well, it's like Dr. Strayhorn said, like, we all live different lives, and we're all just different. And look at all the brothers and sisters in this room right now, all here to discuss mentoring. Like, that's pretty significant. And so that connectedness is what we should take away from this, is that we are all here today to discuss mentoring. And one part of being a warrior is connection with understanding yourself, connection with your community, connection with the earth. So I think all the relationships that were developed throughout the construction and the way this conference played out, and the connectedness that results from it, I think that's the biggest takeaway from today.
Thank you. Any? Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I'm gonna pick up piggyback off from Anthony for a little bit, but I just want to share something really quick. So I believe it was last night. Yeah, it was last night. So I went out with my wife and my kids. We went and ate some pho. If you guys are from Fresno, you guys won't know what pho is. But so we went to it. This is a Vietnamese restaurant, and when we walked in, there were an African brother and African American sister. They're sitting right next on this counter, and all the tables were full. And right next to this table is the restroom. So when we walked in, the waiter asked if we can sit anywhere, because on that side of the restroom is closer to the restroom. But she specifically kind of point to the table that share along with the African American brother and African American sister. So they're eating their lunch on this corner. We're supposed to sit on this corner, but then my wife said it's too close to the restroom. So it's easier if we sit further away from the restroom because we have kids. And the first initial thought in my head was, okay, I'm gonna agree with you. So we moved. So I was telling kids, let's sit on this side. And then while we're eating, I addressed her, do you know what we just did? And she goes, yes, I know what we did. So I believe, to answer your question, is bringing that awareness, bring it and addressing it, not just bringing it, but addressing it. So that way that we're all are on the same page. It's not just because it's a problem that it's stop looking at the problem, find a solution to it, and addressing it and fixing it. So that can be something that will, out of this conference, going back to what you're talking about, the action part, it's, we all came here because we all have a like-minded, and that's why we're here today. And many of you guys are here from 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and all the way till now. That is a lot of hours that you guys are being here, and yet you guys are still here because we all share like-minded. And by taking information or the knowledge that you guys have gained today and putting it into action, so that way that, we can bring the awareness of all of the prejudice, all of the stereotype, all the problems that we have, social equality, and then we can find a solution to that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
So my question is, do you look at vulnerability as a weakness or a strength? And how can you use, what is the positives of being vulnerable as a man?
I can answer that one. I think vulnerability is definitely like a strength, because when you're vulnerable, you are comfortable to share your feelings with someone. You're comfortable to share your thoughts with somebody, and like you could be going through pain. You could be going through a challenge. You might have like the biggest question that might determine you getting from point A to point B. But I'm gonna tell you what happens when you have the opposite. I think the opposite to vulnerability is pride, and like having an ego. When you have an ego and you have pride, you can have like the most devastating feelings, that like the feelings that are tearing you apart, and no one's gonna know about it. You're gonna suffer alone. No one's gonna know that like you need help. No one's gonna like know that like you need a push, or that you need there's a question that you need to be answered. And I feel like when people are not vulnerable, especially for males, that's what leads to suicide. I think there's more suicide rates for males than females. So I think if you're someone that is not vulnerable in this room as a male, I invite you to be vulnerable. I invite you to cry. I invite you to hug your father. I invite you to make a friend, and don't fear to share your feelings. Don't fear to share your thoughts, because your feelings are important. It's okay to feel. It's okay to say, like, you know what, I feel lost. I feel sad. I feel like I can't go on anymore. And when you say those things, someone's gonna listen to them. Someone's gonna take it in, and they're gonna push you. They're gonna bring life back to you. They're gonna bring, instead of having doubt, you're gonna have like confidence. Trust me, you're a more confident person when you're vulnerable than when you're not.
Thank you. And as someone who works with students, a lot of male students every single day that come forward with those exact words and those exact concerns, I appreciate you putting that out there the way that you did, so thank you. Maybe one more question before we conclude the panel? Yes, right there.
I think it's that this is really similar to what President Obama is doing with My Brother's Keeper, and the idea of holding each other accountable as men, and so that's really the biggest takeaway I get from this is making that connection with even the President of the United States, the former President of the United States, and so I want to thank everyone who's been here for that. That benefit to walk from this today. So what do you see is our biggest role in keeping our brothers and sisters accountable?
Can you elaborate on like the accountable part, please?
In whatever way that you would like to see in society, maybe a shift in society, something that there's a gap where we need to be better about facilitating conversation and the way we act.
I think a lot about, I think society and what's going on in society. I don't need a mic, but I think a lot of things in society make these questions that we're, that we're entertaining in this conference really critical, like what does it mean to be a man? What are the privileges that come along with manhood? What are the hidden ways in which manhood gets played out in productive and anti-productive ways in society? So I think part of what we have to do, leaving places like this to hold our sisters and brothers of any race, color, sexuality, political opinion, social class accountable, is that we ourselves have to, one, stay woke and conscious to the ways in which masculinity gets played out. I mean, right last night we were watching the news at the hotel, and there was a story about the owner of a professional team. I should know this a little better, but anyway, this idea of him going into massage parlors and asking for sexual favors. This morning on Good Morning America or some show like that, they were juxtaposing this white older man who's the owner of a team who's done this in massage parlors up against R. Kelly. But the only picture they showed on the screen was R. Kelly. And I caught it. And I know that that's not unintentional. Now, I don't know the person at Good Morning America to pick them up on the call and call them and hold them accountable, but I did name it out loud. And I'm saying it here because I want everyone in here to hear it. And if you see it on the television, I want you to be provoked to have to sit there and say, was it intentional? Is it not intentional? What are the hidden messages? Why would we continue to demonize one and not the other? And look at the way in which even masculine privilege gets racialized. To me, all of that is part of the accountability structure. When we were having a session, I shouldn't say this, but I am going to say it. When we were having one of the sessions earlier, I went for a walk on campus, and Clarence and I were walking down the way, and there was a group of like maybe 4 or 5 white guys gathered on the side. Students looked like, maybe here. And when we walked by, they were not talking to us. They were talking to each other. And one of the white guys looked at the other guy and said, "What's up, my N-word?" And I thought to myself, really? Like, there's a whole conference going on less than, I don't know, 800 feet away, and that's the way that word's going to be thrown around. I'm saying it not to call them out. I'm saying it to keep us all conscious, to hold us all accountable. I can't change their conversation, but I can help us change our conversation, and to be conscious of the ways in which we use words. And N-word's not the only word that can be used in ways that are demonizing and hurtful to communities of color. I think that's the accountability. We've got to have the courage to name it, call it out, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's impolite. I love what the rappers did earlier when they admitted that what they were taking us through as an exercise was pretty heavy, and they were going to lighten up a little bit. Every now and again, you got to lighten up a little bit, but not to say I'm not going to address it. At some point, you've got to get the courage and the strength to go back and address it to make us all be better.
Thank you. Yes. All right, I think that concludes our panel. Give it up one more time for our amazing panelists. And we're going to go through a little transition, and then we've got a final performance.